Hey guys, Editor Jake here with a quick disclaimer. This episode of Scamwatch was recorded while I was looking after my two toddlers, so you're going to hear a bit of screaming in the background, bit of giggling, bit of laughing, and probably the background noise from Disney's WALL-E, which I was using to keep them quiet. So, yeah, enjoy this month's episode. What's up, Scam Watchers? Welcome to another episode of Scam Watch. After last month's double episode, this month we're going back to a favourite type of scam for this channel, the advance fee scam. We'll also be taking a look at the history of advance fee scams and how they predate the internet by quite a long time. But first, I wanted to give a really quick update on our Swedish love story from last month's episode. I, or should I say Peter, is still in regular contact with Lisa, and despite me having turned down multiple requests for money at this point, she's still hanging on and has even begun referring to herself as your girl. So there'll definitely be a part 2 of that. Check out my previous video to find out the story if you haven't already seen it. Now, our story for this episode begins with an email that landed in Peter Carrottson's inbox from barrister Philip Lartin.
Attention! An expatriate who shares the same surname as you lost his life here in Europe after some brief illness. Before his death, deposited the sum of $150 million with a vault company in Europe without indicating any beneficiary. I decided to search for any of my late client's relative before his deposited fund get confiscated or declared unserviceable by this vault company because they have given me a mandate to present any family heir to my late client. As you have the same surname with the deceased, this is why I am writing to you so that I will assist you claim this fund of $150 million. I will prepare every operation that will facilitate your claim. The fund will be released to you within 10 working days after you've filled in your claims. I would like you to acknowledge the receipt of this email as soon as possible, while you also include your mobile telephone number for easy communication. Sincerely, Barrister Philip Lartin.
Naturally, with the promise of about 108.5 million quid on the table, Peter was quick to respond.
Hello, Phil. I have one relative who lives abroad, my uncle Seamus Carrotson. He lived in Ontario, Canada until he died last May of chronic flatulosis. Could this be him? Regards, Peter Carrotson.
Within 15 minutes, a response arrived.
Hello. This gentleman who deposited $150 million with a vault company in London that has also a branch in Brussels, Belgium. I am ready to help you claim his deposited funds and transfer them to yourself to avoid from being regarded unclaimed.
Why are they always so hard to read, these emails?
Please kindly provide your mobile telephone numbers for our communication and also WhatsApp numbers. Upon my receipt of this information from you, I will introduce you to the director of this company so that you will be legally and officially apply for repatriation of this fund from London to America. Your acknowledgement of this email will be appreciated. I'm waiting to hear from you soon. Regards, Barrister Philip Lartin.
Now, I wasn't about to give out my personal phone number, and Peter is yet to invest in a phone, so the only logical response was,
Hello, Philip. I'm afraid I don't know what WhatsApp means. I don't have a mobile phone, they're far too invasive. I can be contacted very reliably at this email address, however, as I use my home computer to run my business, so I'm active most of the day, except Sundays, of course. That was my child in the background. I'm going to leave that in because it amuses me. Are you sure these funds belong to my Uncle Seamus? I wouldn't want to take someone else's inheritance by mistake.
Now, as usual, I like to just double, triple, quadruply check that this is a con and not some kindly pro bono lawyer who just so happens to have stumbled across the email address of the long-lost relative of his client who has left a multi-million-pound inheritance behind. I mean, it's 1,000,000 to 1, but so is winning the lottery, and people do that. So, of course, if he were to, I don't know, confirm that the money belonged to Peter's uncle Seamus, Peter's completely made-up uncle, who doesn't exist because neither does Peter because I invented the whole Carrotson family to fuck with scammers, that would pretty much knock the 1,000,000 to 1 kindly lawyer idea on the head.
Dear sir, thank you for your response and questions. This find was belonging to your late uncle. I will make you the beneficiary due to my immunity as his lawyer.
I mean, are we at all surprised? No? No? No, not really.
Transfer procedure. You should contact the Vault Security Company where the funds are deposited in London.
London, eh? Well, we'll come back to that.
And officially apply for repatriation of funds through their Vault Director called Mr. Larry Perfect.
Mr. Larry Perfect.
The Vault Director will request for some information from you which I will provide to you so that you will forward to them and some information may be given to them by you too. After the approval of your name as the beneficiary, they will transfer funds of $150 million to you immediately. Please kindly acknowledge your receipt of this email for our proceedings without delay. I'm waiting for a response soon. Regards, Barrister Philip Lartin.
I don't know if he was just excited because he thought he'd found a mark, or if it was a genuine mistake, but you may notice he didn't actually provide any details for Mr.
Larry Perfect.
So Peter asked simply,
Hello, Mr. Lartin. How do I contact Mr. Perfect? What information do you need? I don't understand what you want from me. Peter Carrotson.
Dear sir, you should contact Mr. Larry Perfect through his email address and request for the repatriation of funds previously belonging to your late relative. Do keep me posted after contacting him, and also prior to your communication with him for my advice to you.
You know the drill. I shot an email to Larry Perfect the next morning. The use of a second party is a common trope in advance fee scams. Helps add a layer of believability. In some cases, there actually is a second person acting the part of the lawyer, or the banker, or the friend, or the relative, or whoever the second character in the scam is. In other cases, more often than not, it's all one person with multiple email accounts. The use of a second person in scams can be traced all the way back to the very first recorded advance fee scam, which, you might be surprised to hear, predates email by over a century. One of the first known forms of the advance fee scam was recorded by French criminal turned detective Eugene Francois Vidcock, who incidentally was the inspiration for both the lead characters in Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. He's also considered to be the father of the modern French police department. He writes, Prisoners obtained the address of certain rich people living in the province, which was easy from the number of prisoners who were constantly arriving. Then they wrote letters to them, colloquially referred to as Letters of Jerusalem. The memoir includes an example. Sir, you will undoubtedly be astonished at receiving a letter from a person unknown to you, who is about to ask a favor from you. But the sad condition in which I am placed, I am lost if some honorable person will not lend me succor. That is the reason of my addressing you, of whom I have heard so much that I cannot for a moment hesitate to confide all my affairs to your kindness. As valet de chambre to the Marquis de Pamplemousse, I emigrated with my master, and that we might avoid suspicion, we traveled on foot, and I carried the luggage, consisting of a casket containing 16,000 francs in gold, and the diamond of the late Marchioness. Despite the archaic language, a lot of tropes which are still common in these scams to this day are present. The "you will doubtlessly be astonished" is very familiar in context. The next part of the letter is equally as familiar. The master and his servant had to drop the luggage with the money during their escape, and the servant was apprehended when he returned for it. In this cruel situation, having heard mention of you by a relation of my master's, I beg to know if I cannot, through your aid, obtain the casket in question and get a portion of the money which it contains. I could then supply my immediate necessities and pay my counsel who detects this, and assures me that by some presence I could extricate myself from this affair. Another common scam of the time was the Spanish prisoner scam, where a supposed wealthy prisoner would contact and tell the recipient that they had been wrongfully imprisoned and that they could provide riches and a beautiful daughter to marry if the mark would send money to bribe the guards so they could escape. These cons at the time, according to Vidcock, had about a 1 in 5 success rate. They might not be as successful now, but they remained popular into the 20th century, converted into email form, which was easier and far cheaper in the 90s, and are now becoming increasingly common on social media. See episode 1 of this series. But why is the advance fee scam so enduring? British newspaper The Times touches on part of the swindle's brilliance. As it worked in 2 countries, the detention and punishment of the operators are practically impossible, especially as the victims rarely complain. Nobody knows how many people have been cheated, nor how many thousands of dollars have been sent from this country in pursuit of the buried fortune that is always the bait. In fact, and fraudsters don't even care that their cons have such a low hit rate. In fact, one Microsoft employee speaks of how the low success rate actually works to the scammer's advantage. Failure to rebel or but a tiny of non-viable users will make this scheme unprofitable. The mirth which the fabulous tales of the Nigerian scam emails provoke suggests that it is mostly successful in this regard. A less outlandish wording that did not mention Nigeria would almost certainly gather more total responses and more viable responses, but would yield lower overall profit. In other words, the more responses they get, the less likely that each of those responses is going to end up being profitable. By making the story that they tell ridiculous, people who reply, they already know are foolish enough to possibly end up paying. Anyway, that's enough history. Let's get back to Mr. Larry Perfect.
Dear sir, thank you for contacting my office for our payment services to you. Kindly provide us your valid identity card copy for proper identification and record purposes, while we will provide you detailed information on the mode of your payment. Your response will be appreciated. Sincerely, Larry Perfect. Dear Larry, please find attached a scan of my passport to use as ID. I'm looking forward to proceeding. I put an offer in on a 4-bed in Filey in anticipation of my new fortune. Bloody smashing it is. Cheers, Peter.
Poor Peter, somehow I doubt he'll be moving into his seaside cottage anytime soon.
Dear sir, your valid identity card copy is received, and we have investigated its originality through our United Kingdom Embassy in Belgium and confirmed it to be authentic.
That always makes me giggle. I mean, it's not even a good Photoshop. It shows how quickly they smash out these responses. I doubt they even look at the ID. It's entirely part of the act, an attempt to seem more legit.
Transfer process. You are expected to visit Brussels, Belgium.
Wait a minute. Pause. Let's rewind.
You should contact the Vault Security Company where the funds are deposited in London.
Cheers, Phil. I thought so. Where the fuck did Belgium come from?
Where your funds, $150 million to be claimed and deposited for the realization of your claim to a Belgium-registered bank. These documents mentioned above must be realized through Belgium High Court of Justice on your arrival to Belgium at an advanced fee of €12,500, which will be paid to the High Court officials by yourself inside the court after arriving in Brussels, Belgium. After the issue of this above-mentioned documents to you, they will be taken to an available bank account in the Bank of Belgium for the availability and payment of your inheritance funds, $150 million only, without any more requests to you again. Please kindly advise when you are able to make this trip to Brussels, Belgium, so that I will inform you to a broker who will guide you on your arrival to Belgium. I'm waiting for your response soon. Sincerely, Larry Perfect.
Now, as it happens, due to being completely made up, Peter has a remarkable ability to be literally wherever he needs to be. With that in mind, I responded,
Hey, Lazar, what a coinky-dink. I'm in Brussels right now. Where do I need to go? I can fill in any paperwork before I check out the Atomium. Regards, Peter.
I think that threw our mate Larry a little bit, because he responded with the very obviously off-script.
Provide your mobile telephone numbers.
Now, obviously that wasn't going to happen, so I made my excuses.
Sorry, Larry. I'm staying at a remote area outside the main city, and reception is frankly laughable. For the time being, we'll have to communicate by email. What do you need from me? Peter, send your Belgium hotel telephone number so that I can be sure you are in Belgium before introducing you to a consultant who will manage your payment.
I'm not entirely sure where this scam was supposed to go, but fairly obviously there was meant to be a telephone element to it, which I was cruelly depriving our boy Larry of.
Hotel? Who said anything about an hotel? This campsite has free Wi-Fi, but not reception. Talk about first world problems, eh? Pete.
At this point, I think Mr. Perfect was starting to suspect that I might be pulling his winky, because I didn't get another reply. There was only silence. I wanted to try and lure him back and carry on the scam, so I thought I'd play the boomer and get angry at his silence. I wanted him to believe that Peter was still properly taken in by the con, so he'd make another go of it.
Lawrence, I haven't heard anything from you in a while. I'm not going to be in Belgium much longer, as I'm hitchhiking to Istanbul next week to take part in a swinging convention. I'll be honest, Mr. Lartin, your lateness in replying is a little unprofessional, and I have to question whether you'd be so lax if it were your money. I'm a patient man, Lawrence, but I won't be taken for a donkey ride. Get your shit together, man. I expect to hear from you before the end of business Wednesday, or you'll be hearing from my lawyer. Regards, Peter.
Once again, I was all ready with a new shiny email account belonging to Peter's lawyer, but it wasn't needed, as our boy Lazar did not disappoint.
Hello. Send $500 for wire transfer stamp duty charges, since you cannot visit Belgium. Sincerely, Larry Perfect.
So this was in no doubt the con all along. Obviously, the scammer assumes the mark will say, I can't come to Belgium, and so they have to pay the $500 fee to claim their fortune. Very simple advanced fee scam surrounded by a slightly more complex story to try and dress it up and make it less detectable. But Peter was unimpressed by the suggestion of paying stamp duty.
Mr. Perfect, I have been in Belgium for several weeks now. It's not my fault you failed to organise a meet when prompted. Send me the transfer details. I am not happy about your unprofessional attitude, Sonny Jim. Peter.
Larry had had enough at this point, and so, I presume with heavy sarcasm, he said,
Rent an appointment for 1 year there. I'm visiting you before it runs off.
I can only assume he meant apartment, but Peter took him at his word and found it very confusing.
Dear Larry, what in God's name are you on about? How does one rent an appointment?
And finally confirming he had figured my game out and putting an end to this jolly affair, Perfect shot back with
Pussy and dick levels.
I tried to hook him back in. I sent another angry boomer email.
Excuse me, young man. How dare you speak to me like that? I will not tolerate that kind of talk. You are really boiling my piss. Please provide me with the contact details of your supervisor, you rude little man.
Kind regards, Peter. But to no avail. I'd been made and my jig was up. So I sent the customary closing email and called it a day. Dear Larry/Philip/twat. As you've no doubt realised by now, there is no such person as Peter Carrotson, or indeed dear Uncle Seamus Carrotson. I can only imagine how frustrating it must be spending weeks on a mark, only for them to be trolling you from the outset. But then, that's the price you pay for being no good scammer scum. Perhaps you should try a more honest profession. I hear Weatherspoons are looking for staff at the moment. I know there's little to no chance that your experiences with me will change you or prevent you from pulling this trick with others, but at the very least, I know I wasted your time. This conversation will be broadcast on YouTube. You've been had by the Scam Watcher. I hope you enjoyed this slightly different episode of Scam Watch. It's been great delving into the history of advanced fee scams with you. Next month, as well as talking about another exciting con, I'll be delving into the story of the I Love You scam from the 90s, which was one of the first email scams. So don't forget to tune in for that. For now, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from Peter. Cheers for joining us. Bye-bye.
Oh, I found a smashing opportunity for me to get a load of dollars just for me. Well, email my friend. Philip Lartin did say, and he will guide you, he will show you the way. And so I emailed you like he said, and followed where you led. But now my dreams are dead and gone. Oh, Larry, don't be like this. You are taking the piss. And in my mind, I'm going mad. Oh, Larry, I'm prancing in me pants with you in a sumo stance. I'll swim in a pool of jelly. I'll rub custard on me belly. You are cunning, deceitful and wily. I've lost my 4-bed cottage in Filey. You burned it. You are Larry Perfect tonight. Oh, you're Larry fucking Perfect, aren't you? Oh, I'm Larry Perfect. I'm perfect me. Fuck you. Good night.